Military veterans of Reddit, what are your best stories from boot camp/basic training? There are so many stories to choose from. One of the funniest is who we had to salute, every living being. Literally. So I'm walking back from a med appointment I had when a squirrel crosses my path. So I render a snappy salute and bark out a good morning, sir. Just as an officer is walking across the street from me. He ran across the street to investigate just who the hell I was saluting. I responded, the squirrel, sir. He said, what the FCK? You saluted a squirrel? Yes, sir. Who's your company commander? Petty Officer Shanks, sir. Okay, move on dumbass. And stop saluting squirrels. Yes, sir. We had a kid in my boot camp platoon named Jackson. The senior drill instructor was Sergeant Jackson. Poor Recruit Jackson was known as Recruit Laundry number 38 for the whole time because he didn't rate the name Jackson. The first couple weeks of boot are full of medical and dental exams, and if you need a procedure, you get it done right there. Tons of guys had their wisdom teeth pulled, and we had one guy come back right before lights out with his mouth full of gauze and loopy from the drugs. Our DI called us all to the center of the room, formed us up, and then told us to sit Indian style on the floor, and that Recruit Toothy was going to tell us a bedtime story. He pulled up a chair for Toothy, and then told him to tell us the story of the Battle of the Monitor and Merrimack. Toothy mumbled that he didn't know the story, so the DI told him to just make it up, and for every fact that he got right, we'd get to sleep an extra 5 minutes in the morning. What followed was like a live episode of Drunk History, minus any factual accuracy. As best as Toothy could recall, the Monitor was British, the Merrimack was Old Ironsides, and that in the end, they shot the shit out of each other and everybody died. The end. We were all dying laughing, but the DI sat there stone-faced. After Toothy was done, DI just stood up and said that is exactly how it happened. Well done, got up, turned off the lights, and walked out. In the barracks where I did my basic we had cubicles. Our bunks were separated by a half wall. My bed and the bed of the troop next to me were both against that half wall. Part of our layout for inspection was a specific set of gear on the bed. One morning inspection our platoon sergeant decided that the bed layout of the troop next to me was utter shit, so the sergeant flipped the mattress so hard it landed on my bunk covering my layout. So after the sergeant finished reaming out the troop next to me he takes one look at my bunk and starts reaming me out because apparently I think I'm special and deserve 2 mattresses. One of the guys fell asleep during fire watch. One of the drill instructors ambushed him and told him that he was now dead. So then he had to go around being a spooky ghost. So he has to walk around with a sheet over his head booing and shaking everyone's racks. It would have been hilarious if I wasn't so damn tired. I had the pleasure of witnessing this one myself. At the end of the chow line the MTIs have a table called the Snake Pit. The MTIs randomly pull out trainees and question them on stuff we're supposed to know. One day, they pull out one poor sap from our brother flight. It went roughly as follows. TI, trainee. What is the insignia of the full colonel? Trainee, the insignia of the colonel is the bird, sir. TI, what type of bird exactly? Trainee, permission to adjust, sir? TI, adjust. Trainee then proceeds to set his tray on their table, put his hands up in the Egyptian pose but with both hands outward, turns his head to the side and says like this, sir. The onlooking T's nearly choked on their food while the questioning T stared at him dumbfoundedly for a few moments before yelling at him to get his shit off of their table and get the f*** out of their sight. Oh, that was probably one of the best times I've seen a T at a loss for words. Edit, just a couple of typos and corrections. Thank you all who pointed them out. I was in the 322nd Squadron in 2011. Brother was in basic and doesn't read it. He was in the chow hall and witnessed a T, authority figure, call out someone who had placed their flashlight in their belt. I guess you're not supposed to do that. So the T lights him up, is that where you keep your F-king flashlight? Is it F-king lightsaber Luke? He made him stand at the end of 2 cafeteria lines, holding his flashlight like a lightsaber and striking dead the airmen that were leaving the 2 lines. At one point, there was a lull in traffic and the T screams, "Oh, so f***ing lightsabers don't make noise when they're motionless. So old buddy has to make the bzzzzzzhmmm noise as he waits for his next victim." I'm an army vet. One morning in basic training, it was about midway through our 3-month cycle and we were lined up for breakfast chow. While waiting in line, we had to stand at parade rest in columns of 2 in our PT uniform. We couldn't move or anything at the risk of being pointed out and screamed at. The uniform consisted of somewhat black short shorts and a grey t-shirt that said Army on the front. Well, 3 guys in front of me had one of those no-reason boners and the drill sergeant caught him as he was trying to move to hide it away. He pulls him off to the side and starts screaming, "What is wrong with you, private? Why are your privates saluting in the chow line?" Of course this yelling spread to the ears of 2 other drills and they came over as well. "Hey battle, come look at this. Hey at ease that shit, private." As this was said, they noticed and one drill sergeant bent down, face inches away from the full-mast culprit and bellowed, "At ease. Private, you better get that shit in check." I entered into the building before I could hear anything else about it. To this day I still don't know how the drill sergeants went through that without so much as a smirk. After the first breakfast there we headed back up to the compartment to get ready for the day. A-Rock yelled, "Port side 5-minute pump and dump." I whispered to my bunkmate, "I need a little more romance than that." Chief overheard me somehow and got up in my face. I had to follow him to the head. Then stand in front of the mirror, point at the mirror and say, "You're an idiot." Then point back at myself and then say, "No, I'm an idiot." Forced to keep that up for 30 minutes. Will never forget most of the stupid stuff I did or said at basic in the Navy. Edit, A-Rock, sorry it's been a few years since and combined terms. We had a drill sergeant make a private carry a branch everywhere she went so it would replenish all the oxygen she was wasting. We had a guy named Fitzwater, we called him Fatswater. We weren't just calling him just cause he was fat, he was a lazy piece of shit who was constantly pretending to be hurt to get out of work. Anyways, he got pissed at us one day and said, "If anyone calls me Fatswater again I'm going to tell drill sergeant." Immediately the drill sergeant walks in and goes, "Hey, what's up, Fatswater?" A mother of one of the other privates sent him a photo of a drill sergeant trashing a locker, with a letter saying, "Hope your drill sergeant isn't as mean as this." It turned out that it was a picture of our drill sergeant. He had posted on Facebook that ended up going viral. She was just looking up pictures of drill sergeants and it just happened to be him. Had a guy who liked to do handstands in the shower. One of those ha-ha make you look at my junk type douchebags. He quit after someone karate chopped his balls mid-handstand. We had a guy who didn't want to wake up one morning, so the D's flipped him and his mattress on the floor. Plot twist, BHS, F-Quit had gotten us all smoked horribly the day prior, so one of the other guys sewed his blanket to his mattress. Dude couldn't get out if he wanted to. D's had to cut him out. A woman in my company was from Africa. She had a graduate degree in some science, so she was very smart, but some things were lost on her, especially figures of speech. When we were on the firing range we were told to keep the rifle up and down range, meaning no matter what way you were facing the end of the rifle was in the air and pointed down range. She didn't get that and swung her rifle all over the place. Everyone hit the ground. One if the drill sergeants yelled and asked her if her brain took a shit in her head. She didn't understand that either. When I was on Paris Island, we were drilling on the parade deck and this one recruit kept fucking up. Our drill instructor stopped us, stalked up to the recruit, and started wearing him out. Gave him the classic DI, screaming in both ears, spit flying, smacking him in the face with his cover. Eventually, the recruit broke down and silent tears started streaming down his face. The DI took his finger, wiped a tear from the recruit's eye, and licked it, telling the recruit, "Now I own your soul." One thing that everyone must know about drill sergeants is that they are masters of wordplay. I had one who loved making bets with any soldier he could. They often were impossible to win, such as offering donuts if half the platoon scored 300 on the next PT test when the average was only about 220. But we were determined to win one of his bets before we graduated, so we took every offer he gave. One such bet he made, and I quote, "If we have no failures on our next PT test, I will personally make you all chocolate chip cookies." Eager to prove ourselves and get something other than shitted fact food for a change, we quickly agreed. Lo and behold, the day after our test he calls the platoon into the bay as he grinned evilly from ear to ear. He revealed with delight that we had no failures, and that we had won the bet. "So, I guess that means I'm making you chocolate chip cookies, get into PTs and report to the PT field in 5 mics." We looked at each other in confusion, then looked to him for clarification, but he had already disappeared. We form up on the PT field, which was a massive pit filled with rubber chips. Dees walks outside, still devilishly grinning, which was when we knew we had been duped. He puts us at attention, and walks around the side of the building for a minute, returning dragging a garden hose. He proceeds to spray the platoon as we stood helplessly at attention, soaking everyone from head to foot. Once everyone was soaking and miserable, we crawled the PT field, up and back, on our stomachs, on our backs, on our sides, getting thoroughly covered in the rubber chips. Our commander walked out and inquired what was going on. Without skipping a beat, Dees replies, "Well sir, we made a bet that if there were no PT failures I would make them chocolate chip cookies, so now they're chocolate chip cookies." The CO stood and laughed for several minutes before calling out Top and a few other drill sergeants to enjoy the sight of 50 soaking wet privates miserably dragging themselves across the field. That was when we learned that you never, ever truly win a bet with a drill sergeant. Navy man here, got a few great ones for everybody. Spring of 2011. Whole berthing in the shower together, singing It's Raining Men when the RDC, Recruit Division Commander, E4 and above, comes in and screams, "You swinging dicks!" Got about 20 seconds before I come in and rain my boot up your A. Large black Navy Chief, E7, walks into our compartment on day end and says he feels like making it rain. Oh God please no. Then before I could get ready he's already dropping people on the deck and making them do intense exercises. He walks up to one recruit and asks him, "Does Chief like Hennessy or Hypnotic?" "Hennessy Chief." "Wrong, you racist, I like Jack Daniels." Then proceeds to turn up the PT on this individual. Next person is Chief good at basketball or football? "Basketball." "Wrong, Chief is good at everything." Another time we were offered ice cream for supper one Sunday. We all took the ice cream because, well, we fucking deserved it. We knew we were going to pay for it, so I got the bright idea to put all the wrappers on my tray. So we walk in a straight line to throw our trays away and the RDCs are looking for any signs of ice cream, then they come to me as I'm throwing away the wrappers. "Recruit, did you eat 60 f-king ice cream bars?" "Yes Chief, every one of them." More if Reddit is interested. Paris Island. Port side got to shower first, starboard side next. Floor is wet from port side. Girls in one size fits all shower shoes in various states of undress trying to rip off our bras and undies because we have less than 60 seconds left to shower. Suddenly girls start slipping on the wet floor. Once the first girl went down we all went down piling up on each other. Picture wet, naked panic with our drill instructors yelling as the background music. Probably the only fun night I had was about in our 3rd week. We were out in the field, doing training and staying out in the woods for a week, and one of our drill sergeants came up to us and told us he wanted us to steal the other company's guidon, flag the company uses to identify themselves in front of formations. He equipped us with duct tape and rope, told us to give them hell. Once it became nightfall and soldiers had went in their tents to sleep, we made our move. We sneaked through the tree line and found their night god. We tackled them both to the ground and duct taped their mouths shut, then moved to a tree and tied them up. The search for the guidon began. We went through a bunch of tents, tying and sacking people until we finally found it. Once we got it, we ran back to our area and handed it to our drill sergeant. In reward, the following Sunday of us getting back, he let us sleep 2 hours in. Which is a huge thing when you're always sleep deprived. There was a recruit who I'll call Private P. On the first day of basic training, our company was being briefed by the battalion commander and sergeant major. Private P stood up and announced that he wanted to quit. What followed was an absolute shit show. They wouldn't let him quit, and from then on he was a target of abuse from the drill sergeants and fellow recruits. Over time his behavior became more and more concerning. He always just stared off into space, wouldn't talk to anybody, and if anybody made fun of him / pissed him off, he'd pull out his notebook, we were all required to have one, and write something in it. One day after we had been at the rifle range to practice for qualification, we were inside the barracks conducting weapons maintenance when our senior drill sergeant told us to get the fuck outside ASAP. We were put in formation and ordered to strip down for a search / shakedown. Obviously we asked what was going on, and one of the senior drill sergeants held up a live round. Live rounds are never, ever supposed to leave the range in basic training, and grabbed Private P and brought him in front of the company. He was crying and the drill sergeants started screaming at him. We still didn't know exactly what had happened, and then the MPs came and took him away. Turns out he had smuggled 6 live rounds, and he had written in his notebook his plan to kill his 3 platoon drill sergeants, our company commander and first sergeant, and himself. We speculated he was never going to go through with it and just wanted to get kicked out, but you never know. That was the last we saw or heard of him. Marine Corps Boot Camp. First day out in the rifle range. The supervision out there is a little more lax, so the drill instructors can get away with a lot more. For whatever reason my kill hat stopped me in front of where there was a washer and dryer. He yells, "The Gino, ever want to be an astronaut?" Being the good recruit I yell, "Yes sir." He responds, "Good, get in your space capsule." He immediately orders me into the dryer. I only get in halfway, and turns it on for on revolution, allowing me to flip all the way around before stopping it and probably walking away to hide his laughter. Good times. When I went through infantry school at Fort Benning, there was very little to do during the small amount of downtime we had. You can only write so many letters, so some people would work out, some would fight, etc. Everything was contraband, we weren't allowed books, newspaper, anything, so we had to be pretty creative. That's how the battle whack came to be. 2 or more guys would go into their respective stalls, and have a jerk-off race. First to finish one. And yes, you need proof. Even worse, it became a spectator sport. There would be multiple guys standing outside of the stalls, cheering. Yeah, I know. However, this isn't even the main story, so let's get to that. So one day, there was a battle whack going on. I never participated, but this one caught my attention. One guy, Ski, he had a very Polish sounding last name ending in Ski, went around frantically asking for lotion. Somehow hastily gives him a dollop, and he hurries back to the latrine. I go back to my letter, but before I get very far, I hear a scream. I think there was a what the FCK in there, but I forgot. Point is, someone was very unhappy. See, one of the few things that wasn't contraband was icy hot. And of course, that's what they gave him. That is one of the few times I remember laughing while I was there, and I won't soon forget it.